Okay. So we live, we are live, family. Wasn't gonna do this session tonight, but I have to wash and dry some clothes. So I have to stay up until it's done. So I figured to do this live stream session until that completes, because otherwise, if I go to sleep, yeah. So I'm doing this live stream, stay on for about an hour, and then after that I gotta go to bed because I gotta get up in the morning. I got an event that I got to be at tomorrow, a rally against black on black crime and police brutality. I'm going to show you guys the flyer real quick so you guys can peep it out. All right. I've been discussing this in the last two live streams, but since it's tomorrow, I'm going to just show you guys flyers. After I touch on a few things, I'm going to take questions for those who are awake right now and available to jump on this live stream and ask questions. I got about an hour. You can ask me a couple of questions. I'll knock them out as briefly as I can. And then let me get off this thing and go to bed, all right? So I'm going to show you guys this real quick, all right? So here's the for the event, right? So here's the main flyer that they're using. Okay, it's a rally against black on black violence and police brutality. Right, very very good imagery here. It's an excellent flyer that they did for the event. But this is the theme for the lecture. It's not really a lecture, but it's a discussion. I'm giving a 15-20-minute speech or whatnot. This is the actual details on it. All right, September 10th, which is later on today, Mosque 15B, third annual rally against black on black violence and police brutality. We must put an end. We must end the hate against our own brother and sister, as well as putting an end to police brutality and white supremacy. Guest speakers, Brother Heru Renisi L of the Moorish family, Brother Ron Divine, prospect of the Hebrew Israelite family, and activist Sister Magdalene Blue McCullough. Keynote message by Brother Gerald X, The Hate That Hate Produced. That's at 5134 Old National Highway, College Park, Georgia, Suite D. Doors open at 10:30. Program starts at 11. It's time to take action and stop talking. Contact Gerald X at 770-873-3767 for questions, concerns, directions, etc. All right. So that's what's going down tomorrow. I mean, I work nonstop, family. Nonstop, I work for the community. So once that's done, either late Sunday or Monday, I'm going to release the video of the lecture that I told you guys about, so you guys can digest that one. That's Unity Through Autonomy, a unique collective approach to a unique approach to collective politics, economics, and housing. And that's part one of the series. Part two is going to deal with the healthcare program and food production, distribution, and all that other fun stuff. I think it's going to be a 3-part series. I'll cover 9 aspects of autonomy or self-governance. All right. But this lecture is, I tell you guys, is really big. It's really important. Shout out to everybody that joined in on the live stream session yesterday. It was popping. I went in. It was litty. Right. I went in because I was tired of the nonsense, man. And I want people to be able to see what's going on and have access to solutions, so that way they can get some things done. All right. So I don't really do much teaching. I just really did a lot of venting and a lot of sharing information with yesterday's live stream. All right. So right now, I'm gonna wait another minute or two for more people to jump in on this live stream, and we'll get started with this Q&A. Because I know I wanted to do it yesterday, but I was going all the way in, so I didn't have time to do it. Now, it's very interesting. What I will say is, you know, there was a sister. Actually, first let me give a shout out to somebody real quick. Hold on, let me give a shout out to somebody real quick. Right. give a quick shout out. I'm gonna show you guys. Let me get this. Let me get these real quick. Hold on, family. Give me 1 second. 1 second. All right. Hold on. 1 second. 1 second. Let's see. Okay. Yep. Let me throw this in there. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Okay. So let me go and share my screen. All right. Let me see. Let's see who's out in here. So I want to say, let me give shout outs like I normally do. Ayash Hawad, shout out to Ayash Hawad. Shout out to the Black Av 1. Shout out to KB Aded, Daniyala, Aliyah L, Kiefer, Aviel, Ben Israel, Kevin G, Lorraine IM, Anunnaki Osset, Jennifer M, Talk Truth with Shawnee, Katrio, Ben Israel, Mina Sykes, who else is on here? Deborah Swart, Aslamati, peace to the king. So shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. It's about 20 of y'all in here with me tonight. If I missed anybody, hit 1 so you can get a shout out, and hit 2 if the audio visual quality is up to par. So hit 1 if you want a shout out. If I didn't shout your name out, and hit 2 to let me know the audio visual quality is up to par. You know, I want to make sure there's no glitching, no skipping, no poor quality or whatever. Hit 2 if the quality is on point, and hit 1 if you want to shout out. All right. Because I want to also make sure you can hear me as well. All right. So let me go ahead and give a quick shout out to somebody. So just give me a second. Hold on real quick. All right. Let me share my screen. All right, family. So I want to give a quick shout out to this brother right here. This is a good friend of mine, good associate of mine. His name is Sean McGee. The brother traveled from Jacksonville, Florida to Atlanta because of the storm that's about to hit Florida. So the brother came out to the congregation that I go to come and fellowship with us. And, I was going in on something, and the brother was there the whole time. I didn't even recognize him because I never met him in person. And then when we started talking, I realized who it was. I was like, oh, man. So this guy, he's a very avid follower of my work, very great supporter of my work. He's given a lot of feedback, a lot of stuff that I teach. I mean, the brother, he knows off the top of his head. He can explain it to people and so forth. He's come a long way in his walk, and the Most High is doing great things with him and his family. He's a great father. Great person, good spirit, you know what I'm saying? Is sincere about his walk and everything like that. So I want to give a special shout out to my brother, Sean McGee. All right. If you guys want to add this brother on Facebook, you definitely can. It's Sean, it's SHAUN, McGee, MCGEE. Hope the brother doesn't mind that I'm shouting him out, and give him a shout out on Facebook. So you can go ahead and add that brother as well. Hit that brother up, good brother right here. So I wanted to give him a shout out. Because, man, this guy's been supporting me since the day he found out about this ministry and about the work that I do. He's been supportive from day one. So I definitely want to give the brother a shout out, especially since he had to up and leave his home and come stay with us in Atlanta. Not with me personally, but stay with us. Meaning when I say us, I'm talking about the community out here in Atlanta. He has family out here as well. Until the storm passes and subsides so he can return back home. So he's one of many brothers and sisters that have made their way here to Atlanta that I've interfaced with. He's the first one that I've seen so far. Everybody else has been either inbox, text, or whatever the case may be. But shout out to everybody who came to Atlanta from Florida. If you are in Atlanta and you came from Florida, if you need some assistance, if you want to you know, hit me up or whatever. See if I have some free time. You know, me and my family to see y'all, whatever case may be. Email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. All right. So today, you know, this is some images that was taken from my session today. Can't really see what's on this board, but I was going in on the origins of One West, so that the brothers can understand that worldview in the Messianic Keepers Light community. And after sharing that, I went into some history about the West Germanic tribes that expanded and migrated into Europe from the east, and they actually displaced the indigenous locals that were there. And I also went into the infiltration of the Black nationalist movement. I spoke about Stokely Carmichael and him coining the phrase Black Power in 1966. I talked about the FBI's COINTEL program to prevent a Black Messiah. I showed how the issue of anti-African rhetoric, how that was sponsored by individuals that wanted to sever any Pan-African ties between Black nationalists here in America and the Africans in the African continent. Then I went over my domestic game plan or blueprint on how to take over our communities from a political, economical, housing, and health perspective. And I think, man, I wish I could have recorded that. That was really powerful. That was extremely powerful, right? But the lecture that I'm releasing for y'all has a lot of that information in it anyway, okay? Here's another image of me going in, you know what I'm saying, here at our congregation. Yeah, you're about to see that board in a second. You know, I'm teaching in here. Shout out to Minister Milt Carnes, who did an excellent lesson on the 10 Commandments in his series 613 Laws, which he's going through the 613 laws, you know, which we know is not exact, you know, but he's going over those mitzvot in order to explain, you know, which ones should we still do to keep today and which ones is situational or circumstantial. I've touched on this and I've taught on it in the past, but he's doing more of a formal lecture series on it. I'll probably do a couple of recaps, but y'all can go to HEA video and check out some of his material on the things that he shares. All right. Now this is this is the whiteboard, the dry erase board of some of the notes. I mean, not the notes, but the things I was writing down as I was explaining certain things. And as you can see, it typically gets a bit complicated when I share information. Here's a Stokely Carmichael, Black Panther Party, Civil Rights Movement, Arya Masha, Jacob, and the other 4 elders of the 7 heads of the One West. I talked about Abba Bivens, and I spelled this wrong, but Abba Bivens, Wentworth Matthews, Josiah Ford. I was speaking in regards to the Lashwan Kodesh and the use of Paleo-Hebrew, and the difficulties in distinguishing between a cal stem, which is a verb cal stem, and a proper name or a personal name, and how it's difficult to distinguish that when using a Lashwan Kodesh, and the concept behind the Lashwan Kodesh. I went into the creation of the 12 tribes chart, Genesis 49, the Esau being the white man, the Hamites. I also went into the misunderstanding that, you know, that Hamites are not involved in the struggle of Africans in the diaspora here in the Americas as they identify us. And that's when I went into Kwame Nkrumah, which you'll see right here. And I talked about the Right to Vote Act in Ghana. I talked about Emancipation Day in Ghana, and several other things that they have available, the land that they have available for Africans in the diaspora, especially here in the Americas. You know, I went into phonetics. Man, I went into the 8 class files of the Lashwan Kodesh, discussed the UFO and thermonuclear destruction of America doctrine as well. Gave a mention about Dr. Ben and Dr. Ben and his subscription to being an Ethiopian Jew. Talked about the commandment keepers, and all that other fun stuff. You know, 1 West, 125th Street in Harlem, GOCC, GMS, IUIC, ISBK. Talked about the Yiddish claim in regards to modern Hebrew or classical biblical Hebrew and the misunderstanding behind that. Yeah, so this is some of the notes of stuff that I went over today. And y'all know I did a session yesterday and I was tired as hell, but I tried to get as much sleep as I could, got up and, you know, headed out to Shabbat service, stayed there for, man, a good amount of time. We didn't leave there till almost 8 o'clock, I think. I think it was almost 8 o'clock. So we was there for a while. Came home, took care of some things, settled in. Now I'm doing laundry and out on here with y'all. And when it's all this is said and done, try to get some sleep, wake up in the morning, go do this, go to this rally or this event, right? But this is some of the notes, you know, because typically, you know, sometimes I teach at HCA. Most of the time, I'm there to observe, support, etc. But typically after the main service is over and we have our fellowship time at the end, people typically ask me questions about certain things. So I use the whiteboard and I typically go in, as you can see, right? So, yeah, this is Moshe up here. And I was giving an example of Masha and Moshe and the difficulty in distinguishing between the two in using the Lashawan Kodesh or Kadash, however you want to say it. All right. So that's that. So yeah, shout out to You Are the Chosen Ones. Shout out to Chiquita Samuel. That sister's doing something big for the Hebrew Israelite community in Atlanta. So I'll be giving y'all details once she's finished setting that up. All right. Shout out to DJ Souped. Shout out to my brother Kane up in the building. He said he got a question. Shout out to Natalie Y1. Shout out to Don Terry. Shout out to Yosef, I think. Abdiel, Bon Yisrael. I think I shouted him out already. Shout out to Jennifer M. That's the sister that gave us the information yesterday about the planes flying over the hurricane. And if I didn't shout you out, just hit 1 if you want to shout out. Let me know. It's 37 people watching. It's not too bad for 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. So forgive my lethargic disposition. I'm a bit tired, but I'm gonna see what I can do to answer some questions. All right. So just want to get those couple of those things away. Also, go back and watch that live stream for yesterday. There's a lot of good pertinent information on there. I showed you guys how to contact your local congressman. I showed you guys how to check to see which bills that is on the table for legislating from the past into law. I went into the different resources that's being given out by the various counties in Florida. I went into weather modification. Let me show you guys something in regards to weather modification that I shared with the brother. Because, you know, some people think that weather modification is not actually being utilized today. And it actually is being utilized today. A lot of the patents are theoretical, but some of the patents are actually in use in technology today. And I've traced a lot of that. I also went into, and I forgot to get it tonight because I wasn't planning on doing this, but I also went into the military assistant with civil authorities, and I went over that document. I sent it out to a couple of people who sent me emails on it, and I still got more people that I got to send it out to. So I didn't forget y'all. Shout out to Jim Rome, Penrose. Shout out to Kevin G. And remember, family, you know, when I do these live streams, it's not like, you know, I tell people a day or two in advance. I mean, I tell people at the last minute and people jump on. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of the same people, which goes to show I love the people that's in this chat because they committed to this channel. They support this channel. You know what I mean? I could be up at 4 in the morning on a Tuesday night. You know what I'm saying? These people will jump right on here in the chat, you know, give some good information, communicate with each other, support what it is that I'm saying. Even if I say something, you know what I'm saying, they'll you know, share information to assist what I'm saying, or if they disagree with what I'm saying. So shout out to everybody in the chat room, man. Shout out to King Sun, who I see just jumped on. If anybody else wants a shout out, just hit 1. I got you. All right. So what was I saying? So I was talking about another document I want to show you for domestic operations by the military and local law enforcement, and the protocols and procedures that they follow when rounding people up, when quarantining certain areas, when it comes to redirecting and routing traffic and stuff like that for natural disasters and terrorist attacks and stuff like that. I have that document. I'm going to try to show it the next Freestyle Friday for y'all. But go back and check out that session that I did yesterday. It's a real powerful session. I released a lot of information. But like I said, a lot of times these live streams are off the whim, freestyling. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really prepared for them. So I actually have to retain the either recite the information from off the dome, or if I can go to the source real quick that I remember either from online or from my my catalog of data. I have a lot of documents and books and all types of stuff, man. So shout out to Israelite Thoughts and Cammon Away, who I see that's also here. Brother said it's all about nation building. That's correct. And you can't build a nation unless you know the various aspects of a nation, how a nation is governed, how a nation is funded, how a nation is run. I mean, you have to know all these aspects if you're calling yourself a nation or if we're doing nation building. And that's the type of information that I definitely share with the family from out of my cultural paradigm and disposition. Okay. So yes, so Daniela Aliyah, y'all just reminded me. I wanted to show you guys this weather modification site. Give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and let me go grab my phone. Give me 1 second. Never mind. I can retrieve it on here. Let me get it real quick. So what I was saying earlier is that I was on Facebook and a post came up. A post was made, and a sister was asking about fringes, right? And I was trying to share with the sister that from my research, I don't see too many people actually wearing fringes. What would you say? What we call gedelim or tzitzit. I don't think people are actually. Most people, I've seen some people. I don't, but most people, I don't think they're wearing it appropriately according to my research. Even me myself, I do wear them appropriately sometimes, but I'm gonna start getting my garments made to actually reflect what fringes is really supposed to look like. And if you want to know, I want to share it with y'all. I don't know if I should share it with y'all tonight. But what I'll do is I'll give you 1 Kings chapter 7, verse 17, right? First Melachim or 1 Kings chapter 7, verse 17. And the word there is used, the word that's used there comes from Gedil or Gedelim, or Gedelim, which has to do with a festoon or a wreath, right? Has to do with a twisted cord of something. In this case, a wreath is a twisted cord or arrangement of flowers, leaves, stems that's twisted and fastened onto a ring and used for decoration. And it's like what we call a garland. But a festoons, if you read 1 Kings chapter 7 to 17, was talking about how the actual temple was fashioned, right? And you'll see that there was nets of checker work and wreaths of chain work for the chapitiers, which were on the top of the pillars, 7 for the one chapier and 7 for the other chapier. So when you understand, when you see these pillars, right, and you see a festoon come across these pillars, and the festoon, what it is like, it's like a wreath, right? And you see what, if you know what festoon lights are, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a wreath that comes across, like that's twisted bundle of flowers or plants or leaves or whatever, and it's twisted like that, and it hangs down here and it hangs down here. So the columns, maybe I should draw it for y'all. Let me draw it for y'all so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Hold on. Let me draw it for y'all. Hold on, family. Give me 1 second, family. All right. So let me let's board this. All right, let me make sure y'all can see. All right. Okay, so let me lay this out for y'all so you can see what it is I'm talking about. Right. So we got right, and this is where we get Gedalim, right, or Gadalim, right? So we have the Patak there. And when we have this Dagesh in the middle of a consonant, when it's in a word like this, you double this consonant. So we have Gadil, right? Gadil, or we say Gedalim, right? And I'm going to explain what this is, right? But then we also have what we call Zitzit, right? And Zitzit goes into combination with this Gedel, what we say is Gedel, right? So Zitzit would be your damn, I always mess this up. I always mess this up for some strange reason. Yeah, that's typically how I do it. Yod. There we go. Right? And this would be your Zitzit. Right? So the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of people they misinterpret this, right? And when we're looking at the temple, Solomon's temple, he had pillars, right? So pillars would look like this, right? That's one pillar, and this would be another pillar. This is obviously not drawing to scale. I'm doing a really bad job tonight with writing and stuff like that because I'm tired. But anyway, so this will be the two pillars, right? So a festoon would look like this. See that? Let me make sure you, let me see if y'all can if y'all can see what I'm doing. So the Zitzit would be a braided lock, and it would flush out here. It would blossom, right? And this will drape down the four corners. We say arba, the four corners, right, or the edges. And so the Zitzit would look similar to this right here, right? Let me get rid of that. Right. So let me do another one. Right. So it's supposed to look like a flower blossoming, right? Flower blossoming. But this alone does not equate to the combination of the Gedelim plural and the Zitzit, right? So what you need is in between these two, you have to have a bunch of threads. So this is the garment, right? Right. So that's the garment. And what you'll have is the Gedel or is a twisted cord, right? So it's thread that's twisted like a braid and it's brought along across like this. And then at the edges, you have the Zitzit that comes down and blossoms. It's twisted cord as well, blossoms, and a blue cord comes through this. And over here as well, a blue cord comes through that. Now you'll see some people may wear like the fringes like this on the garment. They'll wear the fringes like this. And you'll have some people that'll just have the Zitzit out like this on the garments. And both of these by themselves is only part of the outerwear that we have to put on in order to remember, allow us to remember the statute, laws, and commandments. But it's a combination of these two. Even if you were to mix these two together, which I've done sometimes, until I could start getting garments made like this, it would be like this. So you have the fringes that come out like this, and then on the edges you have the Zitzit, right? And you have sometimes some people will have the bell kind of ones like this. And then they'll have the Zitzits that come down like that, right? But this is how the Zitzit is supposed to look. It's supposed to look like a braided wreath. And the Gedel is supposed to look like the braided wreath coming across, and the Zitzit come down on the four corners or along the edges, all right? That's really how it's supposed to look. And you know that by looking at ancient architecture of how temples are built. And when you see the pillars, you see these pillars are adorned with these wreaths, these chain work of wreaths, right? Or what we call festoons. And they drape down like this, and they come across and they drape down like this. So I'm going to show you guys an image real quick. Hold on. Let me show you an image real quick. Okay. I'm going to show you guys an image real quick so you can better see what I'm talking about. Hold on. All right, hold on. Let me show y'all. All right. So this right here is a festoon of roses, right? But it symbolizes the same thing. So here would be what we said, the Gedil, right? Or the Gadal, Gedil, excuse me, or Gedelim, which is plural. And you'll see that it'll be a twisted threads that come across, and then it drapes down. This would be your Zitzit coming down, blossoming at the end. Zitzit coming down, blossoming at the end, and a cord of blue running right through it, because it says al or upon it, right? So on it right here where it can be seen would be a cord of blue that comes down, a cord of blue that comes down. So that's really how the fringes is supposed to look and how we are supposed to design them and place them on garments. So you'll see when I get a major rework in my design of my custom made garments. Shout out to Life Out Loud Boutique and Accessories. You can definitely check out that sister's work on Instagram, Facebook. But that's where all my garbage comes from. So shout out to Life Out Loud Boutique and Accessories. For those in the know who know why I get my custom garments from there. It's no secret. So anyway, but I'm gonna start getting that design on my garments going forward, so you guys can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Because I don't know if I've seen too many, maybe a handful in all the years that I've been in the truth of anybody that's actually wearing it that way. And when I went back to go research, I've done a lot of research on ancient Semitic images so I can see if I can find anything that's similar to that. And I found maybe 2 different images that's really interesting, really, really rare images. I don't think a lot of people have seen, but you mostly see it in the reconstruction or the drawings or the I forgot the word, but when you redraft up a drawing of something that's old, and looking at the architecture, you can see how the festoons are made, how they drape across like this and they come down the pillars. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very interesting study to go back and research. But definitely look into 1 Kings chapter 7 verse 17 and do your research. Do your research, all right? So that's that. All right, let me see what y'all saying. Let me see if I can answer a couple questions. Y'all be giving me some really deep questions, man. And, yeah, I guess y'all think I could just answer them in like 5 minutes. You know, I can't do that. So I gotta be selective on the questions that I address today. So let me go back and check the chat out. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Let's see. Yes, that was a Lamed at the end. So that was Gimel Dalit Lamed for the Gadil, right? Or the Gedalim. Then you have a Yod Mem, which is the masculine plural suffix. Zit is Zade Yod Zade Tav. So yeah. Let me know if the signal is working again. Somebody said that it's cutting in and out. So I don't know what's going on. But let me go ahead and show y'all this weather modification website that they offer to farmers in the agricultural industry. I've contacted them and they verified for me, contacted them as a potential buyer. And they share with me a lot. Matter of fact, I'll call them and record it and I'll post it up next time so you can hear my dialogue conversation with them where they actually confirm their weather modification. And I ask them about what patents that they have that make them distinct from competitors and stuff like that. And they shared some good information with me. You're on a delay. Ooh, I don't know why this is delaying like that. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. Let's see. So what's delayed? Is it the audio not catching up with the video? Is it freezing? Is it skipping? Just let me know. But if it's fine, we'll just keep going. Isn't Todah Yiddish? No, Todah is not Yiddish. Todah is how we render the word thank you, right? And it's not Yiddish. I got to show you guys a video. You got to understand that Yiddish and Hebrew do not sound the same. Yiddish uses Hebrew consonants or Hebrew script to write out a Germanic dialect. So they are not the same thing. You feel me? Matter of fact, you can type in Yiddish versus Hebrew. There's a video called Yiddish versus Hebrew. Type it in and watch it, and you'll see that they're not the same thing. They're definitely not the same thing. All right. So thank you, everybody, saying that everything's fine. I think some people still, 1 or 2 people say they still may have an issue, but we're gonna move forward. But yes, Yiddish, yeah, and just like you have Ladino as well. Look up Ladino to see what Ladino is. All right. Anyway, let's do this. Let's do this. I want to show you this site real quick. All right, let me get it. Hold on, family. Hold on. in the high desert leading to October town hall meeting. Interesting. I'm sorry, family. I got distracted for a second. All right, let me grab this real quick. Hold on one second. Let me show you this. All right. Pull this out. Let's go ahead and share it so y'all can see. All right. So here's a website. It's called www.weathermodification.com. Weather Modification Incorporated, right? About us, now more than ever, the worldwide need for solutions to atmospheric necessities such as water resource management and environmental quality monitoring is critical. With nearly a half a century of successful programs, our experience speaks for itself, right? When you click on cloud seeding, it says introduction of seeding agents. Water resources are increasingly taxed by exploding demand and continued population growth. The world's population is projected to grow over 40% in the next 45 years. Weather modification, commonly known as cloud seeding, is the application of scientific technology that can enhance a cloud's ability to produce precipitation. Weather Modification, Inc. is on the forefront of scientific technology to maximize water availability worldwide. Application of scientific concepts and extensive scientific experimentation has proven that cloud seeding increases the amount of precipitation, right? They go in and explain it to you. There are two primary methods employed to stimulate precipitation. One, hygroscopic seeding affects warm cloud processes. The other is glaciogenic seeding, initiates cold cloud processes. Though occasionally both techniques may be helpful, in most cases, one can be utilized more effectively than the other. In addition, either technology can be applied from the surface, ground-based, or from an aircraft. Remember, we went over this yesterday. Weather Modification, Inc. can help you decide which method would be more effective. They actually have the technologies from patents that is available for you to see on the USPTO website that they employ in their technology, where they are offering these services to their clients. And I called and confirmed it with them. Mitigating hail damage. Cloud seeding can be used as a tool to help mitigate hail damage and protect crop yields, homes, and other property, thus reducing the economic harm from disastrous storm damage. Since hail is itself ice that is produced only by vigorous convective clouds, when you study the atmosphere and the various layers of clouds, you'll understand what this is. It is certain that such clouds are cold enough to be amenable to glaciogenic seeding techniques. Hail develops when excess supercooled liquid water develops within strong updrafts. However, if the excess might be induced to freeze into large numbers of particles rather than smaller numbers of large particles, the ice that does precipitate may melt during its transit through the warm subcloud layer, or if it doesn't, it will reach the surface as much smaller, less damaging ice. And they can even give you dispersing fog, right? They can disperse fog for you. Another useful application for cloud seeding is the treatment of ground-based clouds known as fog, right? Dispersing fogs. Supercooled fogs comprised of water droplets at temperatures cold enough to permit ice development can easily be cleared by glaciogenic seeding. This can be done either from the ground or from airborne application. Your choice between the two will depend on the characteristics such as the local infrastructure, topography, and wind, right? It says enlist our team of cloud seeding experts, right? Whether you're looking for a small operation or a full program, Weather Modification, Inc. can ensure your cloud seeding project runs smoothly. From Federal Aviation Administration, remember we went over that yesterday, approved aircraft installations configured for aerial cloud seeding and cloud physics to ground-based seeding equipment and training, Weather Modification has the equipment, experience, and knowledge you need. Types of cloud seeding. They show you to the clouds, and they show you actually what they use to do this. Manufacture a variety of cloud seeding equipment. We complete FAA-approved installations of cloud seeding equipment, emphasizing functionality, safety, reliability, ease of use. Area cloud equipment, seeding equipment includes burn-in-place flare racks, ejectable flare racks, and they show you the image of what they look like. Selecting aircrafts, all of that. I mean, they go into detail. They even show you their ground-based cloud seeding technology, and they show you how they can either give you a seeding generator or a flare tree, right? So they also show you the various types. And look at this, family. Keep this in mind. When you see these kinds of planes, you know you're looking at a cloud seeding program that's going on above you. And they even show you how to modify existing aircraft in order for you to see clouds. But keep these in mind, family. See these models here, the C90A, BG, GTI, the B200, B350, the Hawker, right? 400 XP, the Bombardier, Learjet 35A, right? The Piper Seneca 2, Piper Cheyenne 2, the Cessna 340A. If you see these planes flying above you on the sky, if you get a telescope or if you got a camera with a high zoom, take a picture. If you see these model planes, more than likely, they've been retrofitted and modified to see the clouds, okay? And you can actually, it's expensive, but if you balling like that, you can even pay them to seed clouds once you get FAA clearance to seed clouds in a particular area, especially if you're a farmer with crops, you can pay to get the service from this company. So this company holds several patents that they employ in their technology in order to do and offer this service. Several of those patents you can see on the USPTO website. As a matter of fact, all of them, you can see on the USPTO website. And these other patents for cloud seeding, weather modification, as well as directing, steering hurricanes and tornadoes. There's patents that the Air Force has on those, and some of them the U.S. Navy has patents on those. Go and research it, family. You can check it out for yourselves. All right. Let me stop. Let's go back. So like I said, I don't like to indulge in conspiracy theories. I have to be able to verify that something is true. I just showed you guys that the patents for weather modification is in use by, that's one of many companies that offer that service. Various militaries, not just the U.S. military, various militaries are also experimenting and have active weather modification technology that they're using as we speak. It's in use. Go look at the patents, do the paper trail. You'll see exactly where it goes to. All right. So I just wanted to share that with you guys so you guys can know that this is not a conspiracy theory. Like I said yesterday, I cannot confirm nor deny that Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Jose are actually being steered or enhanced. I can't confirm nor deny that. I'm saying the probability is there, but I can't confirm nor deny it. I just look for patterns, and I study climatology and meteorology, right? And I look for patterns and discrepancy in patterns to see if I can pinpoint what's going on, and then see who has permits for the airspace from the FAA that's over us. And you can also submit a FOIA, right, request that I showed you guys to get information on what's going on in federal airspace above you. All right. So that's that. I want to show that to y'all. So let's move past that. Let's move past that. Let me see if y'all have any simple questions I can answer. I got about 10 more minutes, 10, 15 more minutes, and I'm out of here. All right. Let's see. Yeah, those are common Cessnas that can be modified so that way they can be retrofitted for the weather modification technology by Weather Modification Inc. Okay. All right. So let's see what's going on in here. Let's see. Now I'm trying to look for some simple questions. So Kevin G says, in your video about Edom and Ashkenazim, are you saying that Edom is a part of the Ashkenazi Jews in Israel Zionist movement? My proposal in that video, based on my research, which is still a work in progress, is that an offshoot of Edom has influenced the Ashkenazi Jews, okay? And I showed that influence and why that influence was there. And the major point was not only tracing migrations, but also showcasing why the reclamation of the land was important to the Edomites. Okay. and who's at the forefront of reclaiming that land, which would be the Zionist movement, right? Because remember, all Ashkenazim aren't Zionists, right? And all Zionists aren't Ashkenazim, because you have Christian Zionists as well. But the Jewish Zionists, right, the ones who want to take back a land and the ones who established a state in 1948 for the Jewish peoples, from my research, I'm saying a remnant of Edom exists in that populace, as well as the influence behind Esau losing his birthright to his brother and his descendants wanting to reclaim the land for themselves. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what I proposed in that video. I also brought out the scientific evidence at the end in regards to all these so-called Jewish people really trace back to Semitic lineage, or are they from a different peoples altogether? And I didn't really get to flesh that out too much at the end of the video, because when it was nearing the end, I was getting short on my time, and I didn't really get a chance to really go in depth in that. But 7 more articles have come out since then. And plus, it's very difficult for you to genetically trace anybody back to the bloodline of the Israelites unless we have the actual DNA from any of those ancestors, right? They have recovered skeletons. They have recovered craniums or skulls that they've done cradiometrics on. So they do have bones within the strata of the Iron Age 1 and 2, A and B, that we can call Judite sites or Israelite sites. And they do have bones from those areas of people that were buried. Remember, you know, the common folk cannot afford expensive burials like regular people. But remember, a lot of the customs was rock cut tombs where they place the bones at. After a person dies, they bury the person. After they die, they dig up the bones. They put the bones in an ossuary or sarcophagus, and they place it in a rock cut tomb. And what they would do is, over time, when other family members died, they would add them to that ossuary, right? But then when you look at the Muslim invasion of Palestine, you know, a lot of people during that time were removing a lot of these ossuaries and these bones out of these rock cut tombs, and they were creating their homes in here, right? And, you know, again, I did a whole lecture in regards to that. But what I'm saying is that they do have a lot of bones and even some bodies that were preserved in certain areas, not full preservation, but preserved in certain areas that they can actually do a DNA analysis on. They can tell you what the haplogroups is from those individuals, but they have yet to release that information. So anytime you see people looking for the J1, J2 markers to say, oh, this is indicative of a Jewish lineage, you know, they don't have anything to match it on. What they do is they look at several groups in population: Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Yemenite, Mizrahadim, and they look at these groups and they see that they all claim to be Jewish and have Jewish customs, cultures, etc. And they look at these groups and say, what genetic markers do they mostly have in common? And once they assess that, then they link it back to a particular stream. A lot of times when you see the J1, J2 markers is really one of the indicators that they utilize to say that these individuals have a similar genetic lineage. But none of these things are matched against any kind of genome or the genome that we have stretched out or spread it out of an actual ancestor that can be verified to be Israelite, because they have never released that information to the public. So it's very difficult for us to ascertain, genetically speaking, you know, that you can actually match against that ancient group of people who we would call the Israelites, right? So anyway, hopefully that answered that question. I know Kevin G is a beast when it comes to a lot of that information as well. But yes, he's the cranial structure that he's talking about. I mentioned that on 3 different lectures before, where they actually looked at during the Greco-Roman period. They had 2 skulls during the Greco-Roman period. The female skull that they have was African admixture phenotypes, looking at the nasal cavity, looking at the cheekbone area, looking at the width of the cranium or the top of the skull area. And they was able to determine that there was some African admixture there. But also, if you look at the 695 skulls that were found in the second burial site at the Lachish site during the invasion of the Syrians, they retrieved 695 of them, brought it back to Europe for analysis, and was determined that those skulls matched the skulls of Egyptians from Upper Egypt, right, which would be the more Nubian derivative-esque stock, meaning that their phenotypes will resemble a lot of the Nubian peoples, right? So we have that in regards to craniometrics and comparison, but again, we don't have a DNA sample from any Israelite ancestor to match this against, right? And until they release that information, that's one thing that I'm speaking to an agency about to see if we can get that information. I'm trying to see if we can get that information because they have bones, you know, from these sites, but they've never released this information. It's very difficult. I mean, there's a lot of red tape to cross for a request like that to get fulfilled. But I'm gonna try to make that my lifelong mission. I mean, before I die, I'm gonna try to see if I can get that done. If I can get that DNA sample and match it against various other peoples to see whether or not it can be used to substantiate the current model of who's Jewish or not, or if it's a different group of peoples that's dispersed throughout the world. That's gonna definitely be a game changer. But I want to work on that and see how far I can get with that. Before I die. I also wanted to see if I could put that in my documentary, but I probably won't be able to get enough clearance and enough travel time in to actually get that element in there. But we'll see. We'll see. And plus, it's going to require a lot of support, right? All right. So maybe you can check Papal Rome's library. The papacy has an underground vault of, I mean, hundreds of thousands of documents that they are not going to release to the public, but they've allowed certain teams to come in and examine some of those documents. And man, they got a lot of stuff in that vault, man, that they don't release to the public, man. A lot of stuff in that vault. And I spoke to a associate of mine that actually lives in Rome, and they were telling me a lot of things that they heard in regards to what is actually there. But I typically don't speak on that because I can't verify that, right? And I don't want to sound like I'm entertaining conspiracy theories or anything like that. But from what they're telling me, there's a lot of information that substantiate a lot of different things, mysteries that we've been pondering for years. They have a lot of documentation in there. So we're gonna need somebody to actually hack in, because they're digitizing all of those documents. They putting them into digital format now, and it's an ongoing process they're doing. So we can get somebody to hack in there and leak all that information. Man, yo, that would change the world in so many ways than one. All right. Yes, Kevin Jean is correct. I agree. Can you speak on the city in Egypt where Yosef and Miriam took Yahusha to escape from Herod? Well, from the canon that we utilize, it's not specific, but let's look at that. And I want to show you a common misunderstanding. You know, you hear some people that use or they quote something like the Gospel of Thomas, right? And you know, the Gospel of Thomas talks about it's also what's called the secret sayings. So you have the Gospel of Thomas, you have the Gospel of damn, it just escapes me, man. Find it real quick. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Bartholomew, and the Gospel of damn, what's the other one? Damn, can't believe I forgot it. Maybe somebody in the chat can remind me about it because I just forgot it. It's actually, I can find it by looking it up like this. I can look it up like this. It is, I think it is the Gospel of Thomas. Yeah, it's called the Infancy Gospel. The Infancy Gospel of Thomas. And the Infancy Gospel of Thomas talks about the childhood life of Yahusha, who they call, according to this script, Iesous, which we say in English would be Jesus, whatever the case may be. The Infancy Gospel was found in the Nag Hammadi library. It was written in Coptic. Coptic is an Egyptian dialect that's written with Greek letters or Greek script. It's considered a lost gospel. But it talks about things that he did when he was a child, right? And the question is, where did he go for 12 years? People say, oh, he was gone for 12 years. He was in Egypt and he learned with the Magi. You know, even though the Magi are not Egyptian magicians or anything like that, but they say he learned from either Magi or he learned from the Egyptian sorcerers how to do miracles and stuff like that. You know, this people propose things like that, right? But if you go to Matthew chapter 1, not chapter 1, excuse me. We go to Matthew chapter 2. Let me bring it up. So let me go to Matthew chapter 2, verse 13 and 14. It says, now when they had gone, behold, an angel of the master appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Mizraim and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him. So Joseph got up and took the child and his mother while it was still night and left for Egypt. He remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the master through the prophet, out of Egypt I called my son. That is an illusion, right? That's a literary device. It's called an illusion, right? It's not saying specifically that that phrase was created in mind with this individual in mind, but it's an allusion to that reference that it can be a fulfillment of prophecy, right? So when Herod died is when they returned, right? So when you continue to read on, you'll see in verse 16, it says, then when Herod saw that he had been tricked by the Magi, he became very enraged and sent and slew all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all in its vicinity from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the Magi. Then what had been spoken to him, Jeremiah the prophet, was fulfilled. If you go to verse 19, it says, but when Herod died, behold, and a messenger of the master appeared in a dream to Joseph in Mizraim and said, get up, take the child and his mother and go into the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead. So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother and came into the land of Israel. But when he had heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Then after being warned by Elohim in a dream, he left from the regions of Galilee and came and lived in a city called Nazareth. This was to fulfill what was spoken to the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene, right? So when we look during this time period when he was to return, the child returning came back after the death of Herod, right? So he was in the land of Palestine or northern Palestine going towards Syria and Galilee. When he came back, he was still a young child, all right? He was still a young child when he came back. And the reason we know that is because he was known to be the carpenter's son. So Joseph had a trade that he was doing. And the trade was a family business that he trained his son Yahusha to do. When he returned back, the child was a little over 2 years old because they had to keep him hidden up until 2 years. So that way, the killing of the children that occurred would not come upon Joseph, would not come upon his son Yahusha. So when they returned, it was more than likely around the age of 2 or older when he returned. So when you have the scene where he's in the temple teaching at the age of 12, from 2 to 12 for 10 years, he was already back in Palestine. So he was not in no place in Egypt for 12 years and so forth. I mean, the Gnostics who brought about that tradition, they supposed that looking at the canon that was floating around at the time and looking at the synoptic gospels and was able to determine from them that 12 years is missing and determined from that something must have happened. And that's when we got this rendition of the infancy gospel of Thomas, which talks about the things that he did when he was young. And then you also have a lot of these pseudo books that came out, these new age books that came out saying that he practiced in Egypt during that time and learned under Egyptian sorcerers. And then you have some people that say he went to India, you know, and learned from these sages out there. So I think I taught this in one of my teleconference sessions where I had my notes and everything in front of me. So my brain's a little foggy right now because I'm a bit tired. But that's just the gist of that, right? So let me just see if I can answer one or two other things real quick. Shout out to Matthew Plays in the building. Shout out to the script in the building. Noel Sajuj in the building. I think he's asking about the Gospel of Philip. I think that's what he's asking, if he's asking about the Gospel of Philip. You guys can see a lot of this stuff in the Nag Hammadi library. The Nag Hammadi library is where you see a lot of these Gnostic writings at. There's a website that you can actually read these things. It actually gives you the Nag Hammadi library. I think it's the Gnostic Society Library. If you go there, you can actually read a lot of these lost gospels. All right. So let me see what else do I want to touch on real quick. Let's see. Okay. Apologize for the delay. The brother KB Adet asked me, are the books of Enoch, Jubilees, and Jasher authentic? Now, I have my particular shout out to G-Deb. I have my particular stance on that. I actually see most of the portions of the book of Enoch to be authentic. The version that I typically go by is the Ge'ez version from the Ethiopic Bible. There's also a Slavonic version, and there's also fragments found in the DSS, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the book of Jubilees as well. Now, the book of Jubilees and the book of Enoch were highly influential to the Qumran community, right? The scribes who put together the Dead Sea Scrolls. And a lot, if you read, because I don't just read the canonical texts that they left, I also read the extra biblical texts that they left about how the community was run, their worldview on various things, and they were highly influenced by the book of Enoch and by the book of Jubilees. Now, there's some so-called proto-Masoretic text type fragments that was found there, which goes to show that there was a early form of the Masoretic text tradition that circulated during the time when the Dead Sea Scrolls were actually found. But this is one of the proposals. But the actually DSS actually agrees a lot with the Septuagint. All right. Whereas the Septuagint disagrees in some places with the Masoretic text, but also Proto-Masoretic text fragments was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's very interesting when you look at all of these various things. But I say that to say that the Qumran community, who have preserved the earliest manuscripts of Tanakh texts that we have, they were highly influenced by the book of Enoch and highly influenced by the book of Jubilees, because we see them in their canon of texts. It actually they revered it to the point where they created what's called the Qumran calendrical text from out of the book of Enoch, chapter 72 to chapters 82, and they've actually took that information as a template, and various sects have created a calendrical model from that. So they were highly influenced by the book of Enoch. We know that we see references in the so-called New Testament, Brit Hadashah, where there's references to the book of Enoch clearly in there. When you go to Vayikra chapter 16, the word scapegoat is a misnomer. There's no such thing as a scapegoat in chapter 16. The word there is Azazel, which is the rugged one of El. And Azazel, that entity, is only referenced or mainly referenced in the book of Enoch, right? And that's very important. Even the Bereshit chapter 6, some people say the the sons of men, these Ben Elohim, the sons of God, entered into the daughters of men. Some people said the sons of men were the children of Adam, the children of Seth. And they said that the daughters of men were the daughters of Cain, and they intermixed together because they wasn't supposed to mix together. And from there, they produced offspring. And I will say that that's not the worldview of whoever wrote that text. The Bene Elohim, we see that descriptive signature of writing style and various other areas where Bene Elohim is used, such as in the book of Job, right? And it's always referencing to some kind of supernatural force. When I say supernatural, I mean an ethereal force that is not quite human. And these are messengers that can interface with humans and come into contact with humans. You know, there's people that say that, well, when you go in the book of Matthew, it says that the angels do not marry, and they're not given in marriage. Talk about the angels. But you got to remember that these so-called watchers were a different class of beings. And when you look at mountaintop theology, you know exactly what I'm talking about. See, the mountaintops were revered because they believed that the council of the gods or the powers would convene at the mountaintop. And there were certain mountaintops that were higher than other mountaintops, which means that there were different entities that resided on these different mountaintops. And the reason why they were called the watchers is because these entities were placed on a particular mountaintop to oversee what was going on with humanity in the region that humanity was in at that time. And these watchers had left their estate on the mountaintop, and they came down and they made a pact amongst each other, and they came unto the daughters of men. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, I've done a lesson on this before. I'll probably do another one because a lot of people always talk about the book of Enoch. I don't teach from it like that. I don't really teach from it much. I see it as complementary. I wouldn't really consider it highly canonical for the simple fact that we don't have a Hebrew manuscript, right? A Hebrew or manuscript version of the book of Enoch, a full version. We don't have that. We have a translation of it in the Ethiopic dialect Ge'ez and in the Slavonic dialect, those two versions, but we don't have a pure Aramaic or Hebrew version of it. So it's hard to tell what was original, what's not, but the allusions that are seen throughout the Tanakh and the Brit Hadashah goes to show that the elements that is alluded to, those elements are authentic, or the context in which those elements are referenced are authentic, right? So it's really interesting, you know, going in and analyzing that, because, you know, some people don't subscribe to the book of Enoch. Some people don't subscribe to the book of Jubilees. But what I will say is that anybody who holds to the Dead Sea Scrolls and who subscribe to Quran community, they saw both those books as being equal to the canon, because they influence a lot of the extra biblical duties and things. The Jubilee cycle was very pertinent and very important to the Quran community, right? And the book of Jubilees is said to have been written a later time after the book of Enoch. And the objective was to restore the calendar system. With the book of Enoch attempted to lay down a foundation, and Jubilees attempted to write back time based on the Jubilee cycles. And this influenced the daily routines of these communities that lived at Qumran. So if you subscribe to the Dead Sea Scrolls as being authentic, and those of you who read from the Dead Sea Scrolls, whether you read from the actual Hebrew, Aramaic language, or some of the Greek text that was also found amongst them, or the English translations of them, then you cannot leave out the book of Jubilees and the book of Enoch, because these two books were influential to those communities, to those scribes. They held to it, and it was very important to them. All right. Now, as far as the book of Jasher that we have today is not authentic. It was created during the Middle Age, medieval period. Its provenance does not go any earlier than that. It's not authentic. So the book of Jasher today, from my research, it's not authentic. I've read the book of Jasher. I do not quote from it. I don't subscribe to it. I don't deal with it, right? Because from my research, it's not authentic. And it's the manuscript that we have of it is too late to even be considered authentic. It's later than the Masoretic text, and the conditions in which it was revealed, and the individual responsible for bringing it to the forefront is a lot of inconsistencies around that. For the same reason why I don't subscribe to the Shem Tov, Book of Mattheyahu. That also is a later rendition. It came about when you had these polemists and these apologists during the medieval period of Jews and Christians going back and forth, and a Jewish rabbi claimed to have the Shem Tov, or the good name of a version of the Book of Matthew, and said it was authentic and so forth. It's too shady, too inconsistent, and the provenance of it is too late to be considered authentic in my eyes, right? So I don't subscribe to the Book of Jasher, but I do deal with the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees. I do deal with that. I do not equate it to the canon, but it is complementary and supplementary to the canon, the parts that I can validate as being authentic. All right. So Kevin G asked me, what parts of the New Testament do you accept? All right. So those of you have heard me mention the term reconstructed Brit Hadashah, right? Reconstructed, renewed. Renewed covenant, right? Because that's typically what it is. It's not the new covenant Brit. It is the Hadashah, or the restoring of a covenant. And I explained what that covenant restoration is, and it has to do with the Melchizedek order priesthood that was restored. It was once given to Abraham. It was suspended when the Israelites went into captivity in Egypt. When they exited out, the Most High instituted the Levitical priesthood, because that was responsible for the theocracy that they would set up, or the governmental system they would set up. When the Israelites were kicked out the land for 70 years in Babylon, they did not have a priesthood system. When they returned, they re-implemented and reinstituted the priesthood system, all the way up until their dispersals out of the land, one in 70 AD, one in 135 AD, and one later on in the 4th century AD. And through these 3 dispersals, the objective of the Brit Hadashah was to restore this Melchizedek order, where the statute, laws, and commandments will no longer have to be written physically, but the Ruach HaKodesh will imprint them upon the hearts. So the remnant who was initiated into this priesthood order would be able to go out, reach the lost sheep, enlighten and empower them, and bring them back into the fold. So that way, when end times come, they can be the individuals to prep people for what's to come. And that's pretty much what the Brit Hadashah is in the reconstructed sense. What I do is that I go through the church fathers' works, and I go through all the quotes for the gospel according to the Ebionites, right? Or sometimes they call the gospel according to the Hebrews. They've made various quotes from this manuscript, this Hebrew manuscript that they've had in their possession. And I take those quotes and I match them against what we have in the Koine Greek manuscripts, and especially the P fragments. And then later the codexes like Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Alexandrinus, Codex Vaticanus, the early codexes that we find in the Sinai, that we find in Egypt, etc. And I contrast comparing to those, then I compare it to the Byzantine text type, and then the Western text type, which I've studied, but I don't get heavy into the Western text types. A lot of those are like the Latin manuscripts, but I deal mostly with the Byzantine text types, and then later on the majority text, and then the Alexandrian text types, or the earlier text types, right? And I take these quotations and I match these quotations up with those Greek manuscripts. And what I do is I do deductive analysis. I look for the similarities to help me to reconstruct what the original was. Then I go into the litany of testimonies by the church fathers of these other groups or other sects that was around during a time that had possession of these books, these manuscripts that they will quote from, and most mainly the Ebionites, and see what their culture was like, who they were, the practices that they perform, what they subscribe to. So I take that information about the Ebionites, the quotation from the gospel according to the Ebionites, and I syntax that together, and then I use that as a lens to go back and view the Brit Hadashah, and from that I'm able to deduce what I am doing a project on reconstructing, on what the original, at least the Synoptic Gospels, on what the original Synoptic Gospels really was. I put high emphasis on the books of Matthew and Mark. The book of Luke, I mainly use it because it is highly accurate in regards to history. So I use it for its historical potence. potency, excuse me. The book of John, I use that supplementary also because there's a lot of information in John that complements this reconstructed form. And if you see it through the lens of the Hebraic peoples at the time, you'll be able to see the text from a totally different perspective that's Eastern in nature and is not Western in nature. I also go into the Syriac palimpsest or the Syriac Sinaiticus manuscript, and I use that also to compare to that reconstructed Brit Hadashah that I get from the reference or the testimonies of the Ebionites, the quotations from the church fathers from that book that they had, the references to it made by Jerome, Origen, and Epiphanes. And then from there, I compile that information and compare it to the Peshitta that we have, which is the Syriac tradition. And after looking through these things and contrast and compare them through textual analysis, textual criticism, textual analysis, I then am recombining certain elements to reconstruct what I propose to be what the original was, right? It's a very extensive body of work. It's a project I've been working on since 2014. I have not had a lot of time to go back to it as of late, but 2018, I plan to get back on it. But I'm going to do a lecture sometime next year where I'm going to show you guys or give you guys some insight on how I'm putting this project together and how I'm reconstructing the Brit Hadashah. So like I said, I put emphasis on the book of Matthew, the book of Mark, as properly interpreted from the reconstructed model that I have. And then from there, I look into the book of Acts for certain things. Then I put emphasis on the book of Ibrit or the book of Hebrew. And then the 1 John, 1 Peter, Jude, those are also accept as being authentic, and that also coincides with my worldview. Also, when it's putting the canon together of the so-called Brit Hadashah, they saw 2 Peter as being doubtful because they was not able to trace the provenance, the origin, and the author to really attribute it to Peter, but they accepted later on. 2nd and 3rd John also was considered doubtful. The book of Revelation also was considered doubtful, and for various reasons that it was. But I put high emphasis on the book of Hebrews, the book of 1 Peter, the book of 1 John, the book of Jude, the book of Matthew, the book of Mark. I use the Luke mostly for historical references and minute details that's not found in the other two. I don't subscribe to the Q document theory. The book of John is, at one point I was really pushing it off to the side, but I don't do that anymore because there's a lot of information in there that is misconstrued that actually coalesces and goes in alignment with the reconstructive model. The book of Acts is good for historical value as well. And then from there, the Pauline epistles, I don't see the Pauline epistles as being equal to law. I don't see the Pauline epistles as in every aspect being divinely inspired. I don't see Shaul as an authentic apostle either. I don't see him as an authentic apostle. I see him as somebody that has been enlightened, that has well studied, that's done his research, somebody that wanted to put the name or put this gospel of Christ out to bring the Gentiles into the fold. So his epistles to me is just good information, some good instruction at times. Sometimes he says, my gospel, this is what I say to you, not the Lord, and stuff like that. So, he puts his opinion in there a lot, you know what I'm saying? So the Pauline epistles, which makes about 13 books out of the so-called Brit Hadashah, I don't put high emphasis on that. Okay, that's really like push off to the side. Now, being that I'm an objective researcher, right, and a teacher, I can teach from the Pauline epistles and I can defend the Pauline epistles. But my personal subscription is I don't see it as being canon. What they say canon. I don't see anything in the Brit Hadashah that's greater than the Tanakh or the Torah. The Torah is the foundation. Torah is greater than everything else that comes after it. Everything else has to be seen through the lens of Torah because that's the cultural worldview of the ancient Hebraic Israelites, right? So everything has to be scrutinized through the lens of Torah. Everything else after Torah, whatever's in the Nevi'im, the Ketubim, the Brit Hadashah, is not greater than Torah. Torah is greater than all of those things, all right? So I compare everything to Torah. Torah is the foundation, But when it comes to the historical account of who I call Yahusha ben Yosef and the actual historical life that he lives in contrast to the literature that's written about him, there's some discrepancies, right? And again, all of this is in my reconstructed model that I put forth. So hopefully that begins to give you an idea of my position on that. So if somebody wanted to debate me, you cannot use the Pauline epistles and assume that I subscribe to them as being equal to Torah, something like that, or that I hold fast to Paul's writings. And no, I don't. You have to be able to see my reconstructed model in order for you to actually understand my worldview, my perspective. And I just summarized it for you guys. And then once you see that reconstructed model, then you can debate me on my worldview of the Brit Hadashah, because I don't really call it the New Testament. There's no such thing as the New Testament. The Brit Hadashah, it's a restored covenant. And that covenant was initially given with Abraham. Before Abraham was I am. It was a covenant that was already in existence that was then handed over to Abraham. And through the Shaddai covenant, the covenant of multiplication, of expansion. And that was the covenant that was made by the power El in the Levant region, since he was a patron deity over that region during that time. So through the epithet of Shaddai, his objective with Abraham was to increase or enlarge or expand in his seed, to make his to make them as the sands of the sea and as the stars in the sky. That was the Shaddai covenant. But then the name covenant was different because that was the patron deity responsible for redeeming them out of Israel. And because that redemption situation didn't occur during the time of the patriarchs, there was no need for that covenant name to be given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? It was given as a covenant name to the Israelites that was reclaimed from out of the loins or the seed of Abraham, and who was fixated into the land as a punishment to the Amorites, who caused the people to go astray from El in that region. And they were utilized as capital punishment against the peoples that was in there that had all these wicked practices that was in breach of covenant that they made with El. Okay, that's a totally different thing. I touched on some of that in my lecture, Patriarchal Priesthood in the Bible Unveiled. So I have a very peculiar position. And again, I'm not throwing out the Pauline epistles and saying there's no value and it's not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying from my perspective, I don't see him as a authentic apostle, because when we read the book of Acts in the beginning and they're trying to discern who should replace Judas, there was a criteria. You had to be able to be an eyewitness to certain things that occurred. Shaul wasn't an eyewitness. So he was like an adopted apostle, right? There was some work that needed to be done with the Gentiles. They said, all right, you do it. You know what I'm saying? He was like an adopted apostle. He gives the notion that he was given the right hand of fellowship, right? And the book of Acts is proposed to have been written by Luke as a continuation from his Gospel of Luke. And Luke was a companion of Paul. So of course he would extend a whole bunch of the book of Acts in relation to Paul and his ministry, because he was a companion of Paul, right? And Luke, a lot of his testimony from his gospel, from my perspective, wasn't always firsthand. But that's another discussion altogether. But that's my perspective. Like I said, I can defend Paul's writings. I can tell you why I reject Paul's writings. But nonetheless, there's good information in it that I still pull from the Pauline epistles. But again, on my list of priority, or my list of authenticity, or my list of things of reconstructing the original model, I don't have Pauline epistles in there at all. I don't have 3rd John in there. I don't have 2nd John in there. I don't even have 2nd Peter in there. The book of Revelation is not in there either. I believe that you have enough prophecy in the synoptic gospels, if they're properly reconstructed, that can address end times, that you don't need the book of Revelation for. But I still do refer to the book of Revelation because there's some good information in it as well. You know, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. All I'm saying is that my reconstructive model picks from the books that I just mentioned to you. And the objective is to reconstruct the original that was floating around that we don't have today, right? P1 is a fragment of the book of Matthew. One of the earliest fragments that goes to 250 CE. And that's when we start to see we have the Ryland's papyrus of the book of John. which dates up to maybe about 125 to 175 CE, which is really the earliest manuscript of the so-called Brit Hadashah that we have, which is remarkable given that according to the traditions of the church fathers, John died in about 100 AD. So if we have in 125, 150 AD, about 25 to 50 years after his death, we have this fragment of the book of John. It goes to show, and we're able to deduce from that the style in there, and we can compare that to the various manuscripts that we have. We get to see that we have a very close amount of time between when the author died to what we have existing today as far as the manuscripts. This goes to show that there's a shorter margin of error between when the author actually died, proposed to have died, and when we have the earliest manuscript, which is remarkable, right? Nisi's Pieces says Paul deboed his position. Yeah, man. Yeah. Sure. I agree. Can you also see the definition of scripture in Luke 24:44? I'll look into that. I don't see Paul's writings as being confusing per se. It's the audience he was writing to. When you do appropriate exegesis, right, you have to be able to identify the author, what influenced the author, why the author is writing, and his audience. Paul's audience, from my research and perspective, were not Torah-keeping native Israelites, right? These were either Hellenized Israelites or these were Gentile Goyim altogether. So his information was really to promote the gospel of Christ, to bring these wild branches into the fold. That was his objective from my worldview, as opposed to looking at the original apostles. Their objective was to reach the lost sheep and the lost sheep only, and their audience was primarily the lost sheep that was dispersed, right? That was their primary audience. So being that I subscribe to the notion of being a descendant of the biblical Israelites, from my worldview, my subscription is to the work of the apostles that was given for the native Israelites, as opposed to the Gentile worldview. Now, because the Gentiles were allowed to be grafted in to the nation of Israel by individuals, not nations, by individuals, Paul's work was important. But one of the issues of Paul's work that was seen by at least the Ebionites who rejected Paul's writings was that it was given too much authority to the non-Israelite Gentiles to be able to set up these ecclesia establishments. He's called that one establishments, and be able to be authorities over their culture, right? Authorities over the livelihood and lifestyle and example left by their rabbi, their master teacher, which was Yahushua ben Yosef. So they saw a big issue with Paul and felt that Paul was he was usurping their authority, because they believed that either they were contemporary or that their forefathers were contemporary to the apostles and Yahushua, and that Paul's writings opened the door for these Gentile converts to come in and usurp the authority of the Israelites over their own master rabbi's work. You know what I'm saying? So that's, again, my perspective and my view on that. But like I said, when this reconstructed model comes out, I haven't seen anybody really do this type of work before, especially nobody in our community. I've never seen in my community do it. I've seen other scholars hint at it and touch on it, but nobody really has done this work. But I'm definitely going to put that out. I mean, to me, that's very important. So I'm gonna do the lecture on it to really give you more details and references to the things that I'm saying to you right now, while the project is ongoing. And I'm going to give you insight into how my methodology behind my approach to this subject matter and how I'm reconstructing it. Right. Just give me 1 second, family. I'll be right back with y'all. Just give me 1 second. All right. So, ECPC says, did the Ebionites think he was part heathen? No, they didn't think he was part heathen. They just thought he was an apostate. So they didn't deal with him. All right. So, man, you're asking some deep stuff in here. Hold on. Let's see. Shout out to Yahael Yakol. Who else is in here that needs a shout out? Shout out to Alex Harvey. Let's see. Shout out to, I think, Mid Valley Payback. I think I shouted out Mid Valley Payback. But anyway, I'm gonna try to grab one more question. Then I'm gonna wrap up for tonight because it's late. I'm tired. I gotta get up in a few hours. I ain't got a lot of time to sleep now. Let me see. Y'all can put some more questions in there. And we can go. Brother said, so should a convert ever teach? Well, I believe a convert can teach, but a convert should not lead. And that's my position, right? So I'll give you an example. So like Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, the people that are part of this organization are all people with a similar worldview that I have. If there was a Gentile that decided that they wanted to be a part of this organization, they could not lead. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the Torah model in regards to leadership, it said that you should never, or even in the Tanakh as well, you should never put a foreigner over your peoples to lead them, right? And when we look at the apostles, when they set up shop, they always were in charge of leading everything, right? There was no Gentiles that were leading them. They were leading the Gentiles. So I subscribe to that same model. So if Gentiles want to partner up, or, you know, if they want to be a part, somehow contribute or whatever, they'll be designated their roles, but they're not going to have any specific leadership roles per se in regards to really teaching doctrine or being able to coordinate certain things that should come from a leadership role of the person that's teaching and guiding. But they'll have their roles, you know what I'm saying? And that's my perspective on that. You know what I'm saying? So a convert can teach. I mean, you know, I learn stuff from Gentiles all the time because a lot of them are the holders of the information that has been withheld from individuals like myself. You know what I'm saying? But once we come into the knowledge of this information and we can aggregate it ourselves and we can create a platform for us to share and disseminate this information from our indigenous worldview, then it lessens our need and reliability on these Gentile convert teachers. And that's not saying that these are bad people at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they are the gatekeepers of a lot of information, and we have to interface with them to retrieve that information so that way we can own it for ourselves, and then we can disseminate it appropriately. But we got to remember, you know, we are not to mistreat these individuals, right? We are not to have bitterness and hatred towards these individuals, especially if they're not directly influencing your life. If they are, that's different. But what I'm saying is we are to lead them in righteousness. We're to be a beacon of light unto them, right? We're to reflect the Most High's name, his character, and not make it vain, but make it powerful by taking the obligation of leading these nations and leading these converts and being able to ensure that we deal with them in righteousness and with equity. You know what I'm saying? It's not just because you place in leadership does not give you a license to mistreat other people, right? It's not give you a license to do that. Your job is to be a chief servant. And a lot of people tend to miss that when they come into the understanding of identity, and they use that as a means to mistreat other people. You feel what I'm saying? So, all right. So, You're welcome, Yahael, Yako. Thank you for watching. I appreciate that. Shout out to Cornbread 310-90221. Let's see. I think I shouted everybody out. Nisi's Pieces says, what do you think about the Peshitta? I put a lot of emphasis on the Peshitta. I read that a lot. And I textually compare it to the Koine Greek manuscripts that we have from both the Alexandria text type and the Byzantine text type. And I look for differences and similarities. I note the similarities and use that with my reconstructive model. And the differences, I tend to see how these various sects were influenced when they placed the information together. The Peshitta that we have today is a combination of both a translation of some of the Koine Greek manuscripts into the Syriac and also oral traditions that is unique to the Peshitta that is not reflected in the Koine Greek manuscripts. All right. And when you read through them and you do textual analysis, you can be able to decipher what's what. And again, this all this methodology goes into my reconstructive model, right? My reconstructed Brit Hadashah. When I do that lecture, it'll make everything clear for you guys. All right. Let's see. Yes, Deborah, I agree. Everybody's going to get their own specific crown and their own duty to do when the kingdom is restored. All right. Everybody's going to have their place and have their thing that they're given to do, whether that's to serve, whether that's to lead. But there's going to be a degree of equity there that is not hindered by our going astray nature or our sin nature that we currently cater to. Right. And I don't subscribe to the original sin doctrine. I don't subscribe to that, right? That's a Christian doctrine. I don't subscribe to that. And I have a unique perspective on that. Which Peshitta do you use? Good question. I got about 3 of them. I have to look, and I got to look to let you know which ones they are. Let me show you the one that I have. Hold on. Actually, let me show you. Let me show y'all the book that I physically have. I don't have it here with me in Atlanta, but I'm gonna show you the one that I recommend for my students to get. So, if you go to Amazon.com, you're gonna see an Aramaic Peshitta New Testament Vertical Interlinear. Volume 1 by Janet M. Majeria, and that right there is the one that I use primarily as far as the Peshitta is concerned. It's 3 volumes that covers the entire litany of the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, and that's from Light of Word Ministries. If you read the preface, they tell you which manuscript that they utilize for their translation. Interlinears are the best Bibles that you can get because it helps you to actually see the text from a Semitic Eastern worldview, because it reconditions your mind on morphology and grammar, Semitic grammar, as opposed to any European morphology and grammar, right? That we get from English, which is a offshoot of the West Germanic languages, right? So Peshitta is going to be the best Bibles that you're going to get. I'm sorry, the Interlinears are going to be the best Bibles that you can get in regards to really accurately understanding the original language, right? So I recommend if you get a Bible, get one that's an interlinear. The critical edition Bibles are good as well because they have footnotes that give you additional information into why certain things were translated, why there's certain interpolations, etc. But an interlinear is priceless. It's to me, it's better than the critical edition Bibles, and I'd put my money on an interlinear over any critical edition Bible any day. All right. JPS is also a good Tanakh, such also the Stone edition is as well. But when it comes to the so-called New Testament, I mostly deal with interlinears. Right. Those are my favorite Bibles to use, and those are the ones I recommend for my students. All right. And I also got some digital ones too, digital ones as well. I also subscribe to some of the some of the doctrine of Syriac primacy. And I believe that some of the traditions found in the Peshitta, oral traditions that was actually written down in Peshitta, that differs than what we see, especially with idioms that we see in the Koine Greek manuscripts, that oral tradition is much older than the Koine Greek manuscripts, right? And for my subscription, when the apostles went to Antioch, that's when that oral tradition was left with them at that time. And that oral tradition was carried on for 100 years before they decided to actually put it down in book format. All right. So I do subscribe to some of the tenets of Syriac primacy. If you don't know what that is, type it up, research it, look into it. Some theologians who are New Testament scholars like to debunk Syriac primacy, mostly because it is not their avenue of expertise. They put high emphasis on the Greek because it allows them to identify more with the text when it's written in the Indo-European language, because they put high emphasis on Western civilizations and Western way of thinking, and it allows the text to be very philosophical when you're reading it in Koine Greek. And this is why they love it so much, and they reject a lot of the other versions as being equally as authentic, right? But when you read the history, you'll see that a lot of the books that the other sects actually had, Israelite sects that was going around actually had, was burned, destroyed, etc. And that was done purposely, so that way these Greek Koine manuscripts can exist and can be counted as being original, right? But I digress. But look into the Syriac primacy, and you'll see what my position is on that in regards to the Peshitta. All right. One more question, and I gotta go, family, because I gotta go. I'm tired. That's an excellent question, Black Av One. You know what, Black Av One, about how do we balance being righteous but not overly friendly, letting our guard down? You have to use hakma or wisdom to discern that. But there's various filtering techniques that you can use in order to weigh those decisions and know how to approach it. Shoot me an email, blackav1, with that question, and I'll address it in a later video. But okay, what do you think about the AMP Bible? Hell no, I don't use that. The AMP Bible, the Amplified Bible, that is trash. Throw that away. Amplified Bible is a highly extreme dynamic equivalency translation. I don't rock with anything that's highly extremely. It is too loose. There's too much interjections, interpolations in there. I don't deal with that Bible. So I personally, I've read through it, and I can't. It's too many ongoing sentences, long-winded sentences, and they put it in there for emphasis purposes, but it really takes away from the text itself. So I don't deal with the Amplified version. All right. Bezalel Israel says, Divine, weren't you working on compiling a Bible? Yes, I was, and I still am. The reconstructed Brit Hadashah and a reconstructed Torah is what that text is going to consist of. So it's going to consist of a reconstructed Torah, right? The first 5 books, what we call first 5 books, and a reconstructed Brit Hadashah. And I'm going to go through the various manuscripts that I believe is primarily indigenous in thought form, whatever those stylistic differences and nuances may be, to indicate that, and use these things with looking at history, looking at the lens of textual criticism, and being able to reconstruct something that more reflects the indigenous worldview of the as far as the Torah of the ancient pre-exilic Hebrew Israelite culture, and as far as the Brit Hadashah, the original contemporaries of Yahusha, and how they would have viewed the world, and how their teaching should properly be interpreted as reflected from a reconstructed model. So this so-called Bible that I'm doing is not going to be all the books. It's just going to deal with the Torah, some parts of Psalms. So in it, it's going to be the Torah, some parts of Psalms, and it's going to be a reconstructed Brit Hadashah. And it's not going to have any of the Pauline epistles in it. It's not going to have like third John in it. It's not going to have the book of Revelation in it. It's only going to have parts of Acts in it. It's going to have Hebrews. The book of Hebrews is going to be in it. Nobody knows the author of Hebrews. Some people propose that it was either Paul, Apollos, or one of the actual disciples, but we don't know for sure. But I know that text was written to a Hebraic audience. So that's why it has value and authenticity to me. So this so-called Bible that I'm reconstructing is going to consist of the Torah, some of the Tehillim or the Psalms, and the Brit Hadashah, reconstructed Brit Hadashah. That's what I'm going to syntax. That's what I'm going to put together. And it's going to reflect a lot of my worldview and what I believe is a reconstructed original, right? We don't know for certain what the original is because we don't have autographs, but through various means of research, we can ascertain what we can propose as being or what we deem as being the original. All right. So I think I'm going to end off on that. So shalom to the brother Melanin Rich Nagast. Hopefully that's a brother. I think that is an ak. Shout out to Melanin Rich Nagast. So family, this was just looking forward to when you do full-time ministry. Yes, when I do full-time, all I will be doing is taking questions and constructing videos based on your questions to answer it, right? Or do lectures on certain questions that require that lengthy amount of analysis and conveyance, right? But in the interim, being that this is still not a full-time thing that I'm doing at the moment, that will change in the future. Unfortunately, I can't really address every question that's coming my way like I would want to. But if you guys can help support, there's various ways that you can do it. You can go and become a monthly donator or give monthly donations, commit to monthly donations at my Patreon site. Just type in Divine Prospect and you'll see the Patreon site. You guys can donate via PayPal. The email address is Kingdom Harbinger, Har as in Roger, Binger @gmail.com. If you want to donate via PayPal, you can donate via GoFundMe. Just type in Kingdom Harbinger and you'll find our GoFundMe page. You can donate that way as well. And if you want to send donations those way, towards us, so that way we get enough people to commit to donating, along with our member donations, then we can make this a full-time thing. And all my focus will be addressing these questions, doing lectures, doing videos, doing community work, focusing on debt elimination services that we have, the naturopathic health to Eden, naturopathic health services that we have, and all other services that we offer. So there's a lot of services that we offer through my affiliates within the organization and people that partner up with the organization. And all I will be doing is be working for y'all full time. And that's my goal. Hopefully sometime in 2018, that's my goal, is to work for you guys full time. All right. In the interim, I do the best that I can do with a little bit of, I ain't gonna say it's a little bit of time, but with the amount of time that I have. Like I said, because my research methodology is pretty good, I actually extract a lot of good conclusions from my little bit of time of research that I have. Between my 10 hours of working every day, I work about 50 hours a week. And then, having to deal with family, having to deal with friends, having to deal with projects, having to deal with deadlines, having to deal with responding back to messages and emails and stuff like that, having to structure and organize, because right now I'm reconstructing my ministry organization and bringing new members on board, delegating tasks and jobs and roles to those individuals, and finding an economic model to make sure everybody's compensated for assisting. It's a lot. And then having to go to these rallies and lecturing nationwide and stuff like that. It's a lot, especially when you have other responsibilities and you cannot do it full time like you would like to, right? But that will change in the future, mostly because of y'all that's in here, the guys that's in here and the gals that's in here. Y'all been supporting me from day one. Y'all make everything possible, whether it's through your prayers, through your support, sharing information with me, donating. Everything that y'all do makes a complete difference. And it enables me to be the best that I can be, because, you guys refuse to allow me to quit. You guys refuse to allow me to deviate. And knowing that I'm obligated to serve you guys is what I wake up with that purpose on my mind, that I cannot let you guys down. So no matter what adversity I face, what responsibilities that I have an obligation to the people, and each and every day, that is what wakes me up. That is what drives me, because my service to the Creator is how I treat his people, right? How I serve his people. So I just want to make sure that I'm consistent with that. I'm persistent with that. And no matter what adversity, because family, I face a lot of adversity for doing what I do, you know, a lot of adversity. But interesting enough, I get more love than adversity. But when the adversity comes, it's very strong because people try to take me off this course. But those of you who commit to this, allow me to do it as strongly as I can do it, to commit to helping you guys. So family, those of you in Atlanta, come out to the rally later on today. I'll be speaking at that rally. I'm not even going to get enough sleep for that. So hopefully I'll be able to function and make it through. I'm only going to speak for about 15, 20 minutes. It's not going to be a PowerPoint presentation, nothing like that. So it shouldn't be too difficult. It's just the rally after the speeches that's going to take the large portion of the time. And I want to really get a nap in sometime tomorrow, so that way I can finish editing this video on Unity Through Autonomy, so I can release it either Sunday evening or on Monday for you guys. Because I'm telling you, it's a life-altering lecture. And I'm telling you, man, it's really going to change lives. When you guys look at this information and implement it, it's going to change. It's going to change a lot in our communities, man. We can definitely take it over. And I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So with that being said, KB ADEV says, are any of those services connected to Patreon? No, Patreon helps to fund those services and make them possible, and also allow me to give it out as a discount to other people. Those services are independent services that you can request, like our debt elimination services. You can go through the email and request that. A naturopathic health consultation services. You can also request that. These are services that I myself do. But then people that's part of my organization, they do administrative services, they do fashion work, they do all types of other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Legal aid, stuff like that. So between me and the people part of the ministry and the people I'm partnered up with, there's various services that we offer and that we share. But me primarily, I offer the elimination service and a naturopathic health consultation service. Jubilee Manumission is the name of the debt elimination service. Naturopathic Eating is the name of the naturopathic health consultation service. And then Kingdom Harbinger Ministries in regards to teaching culture, teaching community, and teaching autonomy. So that also is in line with what we do. Proactivism also that I do as well. So I get called in and requested by different groups and organizations to give them a game plan on how to proactively implement solutions in the community. So I also get called to do that as well. So people want those type of solutions, maybe at a town hall meeting that you guys may have, or maybe at a community meeting or something like that. And you would like me to come out and speak and to give a game plan or solution or a proactive means of how to start, how to get started and the approach to take. That's also a service that I offer as well, that I've been doing a lot as of late. And then my teachings too, you know, my lectures as well. You know, I do lectures on various subject matters and stuff like that. So my lectures as well is also part of what I do as well. And, you know, when I do a big event lecture, you know, sometimes, you know, a donation of $5 or $10 is requested for that. Or sometimes I don't charge a donation at all, like the last couple of ones. And people just donate at the end if they received something from what was taught, you know, because I don't want people to feel cheated if they donate money up front and they don't get what they're looking for. I'd rather people be compelled to give once the information can readily change their lives. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you know how effective your ministry is. If you don't have to beg people to give, but the information you give to them is pertinent and it's life altering, where they can see immediate results and that they're compelled to give, you know? So that's how I like to operate. So yeah, my lectures as well as far as information. But family, it's late. It's 3:45 a.m. Y'all need to get some sleep, go to bed. Thank you to everybody who jumped on this live stream. So many people get mad at me when they're like, man, you know, I didn't know you was doing a live stream and I wish I was awake. I'm sorry to the family who's watching this and you guys weren't aware of my live stream. Just note that if I go live, more than likely it's going to be late at night when everything in my home is settled, everything in my mind is settled, and either I'm ready to do this before I go to bed, or I have something on my mind I want to share. Like I said, a Freestyle Friday is supposed to be every other Friday, but I did 2 almost back to back last week and this week. but I try to stretch it out every 2 weeks. But more than likely, you'll get the notification on your phone. If you're not getting a notification on your phone, go to your YouTube app, select the bell icon, and it will give you the notification to know when I go live. All right, and you'll never miss a notification. Again, go into your phone settings, Android settings or iPhone settings, and put a particular ringtone for YouTube so you can hear it, and that way it'll go off and you'll know, oh man, Divine is going live. You know, Kingdom Harmony Ministries is doing something, and you guys can be privy to what's going on. So with that, I apologize for the long salutation, but I love you, family. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining on. Thank you for hanging out with me early in the morning. Thank you for supporting this ministry. Thank you for supporting each other in the chat room. Man, I have the best supporters on the planet. Everybody in the chat room is VIP. You know what I'm saying? They can contact me anytime. You know, reach out to me anytime. I love them in the chat room that support this ministry. I love you guys who are watching and who weren't able to make it in the chat. And everything that we do is possible because our objective is to serve you. So with that, I want to say peace, shalom, Black Power family.